Hello, everyone. I'm really excited, actually delighted, to be in front of the SWE audience, talking about a topic that is really near and dear to me. So thank you, SWE organizers, for having me over, and that too to talk about how do we let our curious mindset dominate? How do we live? How do we practice curiosity? I thought I would do this first by talking to you about what curiosity means to me. The way I define curiosity is by breaking it down into some simpler items. One, we got to overcome our obstacles. Next, we need to build resiliency. We need to understand how to battle our fears. We have to get over them and turn them into a learning opportunity. A person who's curious is continuously learning. When you take that and apply it to what makes someone successful, it's a simple equation. How do I define success? Success to me is a confluence of finding the right opportunity, being curious enough that you actually find the right items to work on, the right topics to address. Then leveraging your know-how, leveraging your network to come up with the right idea to solve the opportunity that you're after. But you do that by having a strong belief in yourself, by having belief in the people that you're bringing with you to use that idea to solve the problem or the opportunity. The confluence of those three is what makes someone successful. You can use this recipe to succeed as an entrepreneur, where you're setting up something of your own and driving it to success, or to fuel your growth inside a larger corporation by being an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who's going to use entrepreneurial ideas, methods, and practice them in the confines of a larger corporation. With that framework, let me talk to you about my journey, my path. I'm going to start from when I stepped into the US soil. This was early in the 1980s. I came here to do my master's in Urbana-Champaign, University of Illinois. It's provided me the foundation for what I have used to pivot my entire career on. An absolutely amazing institution that taught me how to use the intellectual, curious side of me to build technology. With a master's degree from Champaign-Urbana, where curiously, my master's thesis was about building a neural network simulator. And this was in the 1980s, perhaps the genesis of what today has become the AI revolution that we are in the midst of. Equipped with foundational knowledge and some lab experience from Illinois, I came to Intel, an iconic company in the very attractive Silicon Valley, which was the hub of innovation in the semiconductor industry at that time. Intel provided me the grounding, the discipline, the foundation of how to take my learnings from theory and put it into practice and build some powerful products. I was the part of the 286, the 386 teams. From Intel, when Sun was just starting the first chip design, I left and joined to become a technology leader in Sun Microsystems. But I spent a significant chunk, more than 10 years, more than 12 years in Sun Microsystems, where I grew from a technologist to becoming a manager and finally a leader and an executive. When Sun's fortunes turned, I left Sun and started my first company, which was Prism Circuits. Prism, while I was in it, felt like a ton of hard work. In retrospect, it was a runaway success. I grew the company with no funding to multi-million-dollar revenue in a couple of years, and it got acquired by Moses. I delivered at Moses so that the entire responsibility I had taken on of realizing the acquisition for Moses, did that successfully, and then thought I was going to retire. But I guess retirement is not in my genes. I started another innovative company called NetSpeed Systems, where we came up with a better method of putting SoCs together, silicon chips together. It was a dream come true for me when NetSpeed got acquired to Intel, and today I'm a corporate VP inside Intel, bringing about change in how we build IP and how we put those together to build really powerful SoCs. Okay, this journey is a long one, but the foundation of it starts from the very beginning. It starts from when I was a child. And I've included over here a photograph of me with my two siblings. I have two older brothers. Both of them are also engineers. This picture speaks a lot. It tells you that I grew up in an environment where I had two brothers who constantly encouraged me to follow my curious self and blur the distinction between whether I am male or female. It also tells you that I came from a simple family, a middle-class family in India, where getting a photograph taken required us to kind of doll up and show up in a studio. But through all this, one thing that our family had in droves was parents who gave us an abundance of love and an abundance of cultivating our curiosity into doing something for ourselves or for humanity. The perceptual curiosity with which we were born was channeled very constructively into intellectual curiosity that we could use to figure out how things work. How do you make them work? How do you build something? How do you problem solve? And with a school teacher, mom, and a geologist father, we are three kids who are very successful today as engineers. But what the family provided to me, the nurturing, the curiosity, the okay to follow your brothers, the rest of the environment around me in that little town was not supportive of. I got constant reminders, and sometimes even from my own siblings, saying, hey, you work so hard at science and trying to compete with us, maybe you should study home science. No, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to learn more about the area that I am curious and passionate about. And that is what took me from studying science in school to getting an undergraduate degree in engineering in Baroda, India. But that was not enough. I have to kind of anecdotally share a story with you. When I was really good at science in my middle school, I used to go to an all-girls school because, like I said, we grew up in a very conservative environment. It was an all-girls school. My mother actually took me out of the all-girls school and moved me to an all-boys school by making a plea to the principal that she was a teacher in the school and it was okay for a girl to study there, so that I had the adequate amount of competition, the learning from my peer group. I went through the same struggle when I said I needed to go to a dorm and stay and study for engineering, whereas the arts schools were all close by in the vicinity of where we used to stay. But I persevered and took it a step further, saying, hey, I really want to study in America. I want to leave India. So I left and I joined my fiancé, who was already in Urbana-Champaign. Why? I was curious about what is that world like over there? What do engineers in the US do versus what I had learned in India? And And boy, did I learn that. The very first computer architecture course that I took on, the theoretical aspects were okay, but I went into the lab and I see the students sitting there with light pens and a very sophisticated CAD environment to build a simple, what today feels simple to me, a simple microprocessor. What I had studied in India was archaic compared to this. We used punch cards. What are punch cards? Punch cards are cards where you program in assembly language. You feed that to these cards that punches holes in them, and you load that into a computer. I came from that to being in a place where people were using software to actually configure their designs. A massive shift. Was I afraid? Yes, I was. But did I cower with the fear? No. I did really well because the education system of the US is like almost liberating. It let me do what I wanted to do, go research what I wanted to. Let my curiosity it was unbounded curiosity that let me do different things. And I'm so proud to stand here today and say that in 2017, this prestigious university gave me a Distinguished Alumni Award for what I have been able to pioneer in the field of technology. From here, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot to talk about more incidents that have happened in my personal journey, unexpected events perhaps, and how did the curious me use some of these to pivot myself forward rather than regressing. The first incident that jumps up in my professional career is the first performance review that I got. Here I was. I had done a ton of work, created a lot of new stuff as an RCG. But when I went for my first review, the verbiage on the review was excellent, but the raise I was given was nothing. I looked at my manager in surprise, saying, "It's a year since I've been here. I was expecting a good raise." He says, "Well, the average for this year is very low, and because you're married and you don't have any children, I figured it was okay for me not to give you a raise, but you did really well." Was I disheartened? Of course I was. This was perhaps my first realization of the fact that I was female and that there is discrimination in our industry against us. This was in the 80s, mid-80s time frame. Very different situation today. But what did I do? I was like, you know what? I think I need to do something about it, not just for myself, but for future young employees who are going to join. So I took it up with our human resources. I got myself transferred out and ensured that the manager who had given me feedback had to go through rigorous training to make sure that never happens to another employee. I ensured that the corporate books were updated to say that this was not to be done. And at the end of this, yes, I was disheartened for a bit. But by turning it into something that became better for the whole corporation, it became a positive, even for me, saying, hey, I made a difference, I made a dent. That is the curious side of me that says that when something untoward happens, how do you pivot and do something positive from there? The next learning came to me in a different, unexpected way, is when I found out that I am going to be a mom. There was a world of wisdom over there for me that says, you're going to either work or you're going to become a mom. And we suggest that if you're really tied to being a mom, just quit and make that your full-time profession. But I was curious. Do I really need to do that? Is it possible for me to funnel the energy from one to the other and do okay at both, or actually do very well at both? And I am probably a prime example of shattering the myth that you cannot do both. I went up to my management and I said, I want to work part-time. They said, well, our corporation doesn't allow you to work part-time. I said, then I quit I found a company that allowed me to work part-time. It's not too many people know this, but for 13 years I worked part-time, enjoying the time with my children when they were home and working at the time that they were in school or they were busy doing their homework. And I rose on to manage hundreds of people working part-time. It's possible to do that, but your curiosity drives the desire to do it. You learn methods. You learn that empowerment is an amazing technique and that you can grow as a leader when you empower other people. It taught me a lot of things. It taught me prioritization. It taught me how to multitask with ease. And very importantly, it taught me how to say no. Because when people made demands on me that I couldn't meet, it was easy for me to call it out saying, no, this is not important enough. Next incident that I want to talk about. I was doing really well. Yes, working part-time. But then Sun's fortunes changed. The company's fortunes changed. You don't control that. I don't control that. Business conditions caused our company to make a tough choice and lay off my entire team. I was given the option of moving on to another program or to get laid off. It took me a second to make the decision to say, I'm going to take the layoff package. I took that, and then I could have been afraid. I could have been afraid saying I got laid off. I have a young family. I do need to work. At that point in time, my husband had just started his own startup. But I was like, no, I think there are other options. So I started exploring the options. A clear choice would have been maintain status quo when this happens to a lot of people, move into another large company and, maybe go through the same fate again. But I wanted to control my own destiny. I was like, I don't want to be in a large company where I don't get to decide when I stay and when I leave. So I talked to smaller companies, and I had choices to become a VP of engineering there. But then the curious side of me said, I think I'm going to use this opportunity to become an entrepreneur. So I actually took the layoff package that I had from Sun, and that is how my entrepreneurial journey started. So it's these pivotal inflection points in your life that offer you the opportunity to think differently. I urge you, when that happens, don't panic. Don't make the first obvious choice. Listen to that little curious voice in you that says, do something different. Go build something. Go do something which challenges your curiosity. Have a mindset that is a growth mindset. So once I decided that I was going to become a CEO, well, the naysayers came out again. A female CEO in the hardware industry, and that too building a deep technical product, we advise you not to do that. I was like, okay, let me turn their skepticism into passion. When I approached a customer as a petite Indian woman saying, I'm going to give you the highest speed SerDes, which is a very difficult, complicated block to build, what was skepticism turned into, okay, tell us about it. When they saw my passion, when I was able to channel the female energy, the emotional energy of a female into the passion towards my product, towards my team, towards my corporation, skepticism turned into admiration. And I'm going to tell you with confidence that being a female CEO is one of the biggest assets I have today in this industry. They remember you. They remember you because you're different. They remember what you say. They know you expose your vulnerabilities. You're truthful. They can count on you. And these are the basic things required to create a very successful startup. Obviously, you got to have the idea, you got to have the team, but you got to have the passion, you got to be able to show that passion, and you got to be able to extend it to your partners and customers so they believe in you and help you grow. And that is what happened to me as a CEO. Not once, but twice. So I want to leave you with this message from this part of my talk, saying curiosity is a key to success. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to be willing to dream big. You got to be willing to follow your curiosity. With that curiosity, explore the gaps in our industries. Where is the market opportunity? Where is there a gap that you can address? Marry that with the right idea. Think, reflect on your own experiences and which idea jumps up that you can marry to that opportunity. Finally, believe in yourself, believe in your team, and that will lead you to tremendous success. That success, that passion, that force to create absolutely the best product at net speed is what brought me and my team back to Intel. This was a dream come true for me, coming back to my alma mater, the place that taught me how to do design with discipline, how to do it correct, how to do it with a curious mind. At Intel, our vision is to create technology that is going to touch and enrich the life of every human on this planet. We do it from the transistor level to large-scale data centers, to automotives, to 5G networks. Intel is all about unleashing curiosity at a massive scale. And no one could have said it better than our founder, Robert Noyce. Don't let history encumber you. Don't be encumbered by history. Go off and build something wonderful. So I'm really excited to be at Intel and be here at a pivotal juncture when we are reinventing, re-innovating, and creating something wonderful for many more years to come. So in closing, what I want to say, I leave you with the message of Robert Noyce with a slight twist. Do not be encumbered by obstacles. Stay curious. Stay curious and turn your curiosity into opportunities. With that mindset, you will definitely win. Thank you very much.